Ivy Meyer's Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. Dial us up on the web at www.ntnm.org, where over a third of a million shows have been watched. We're real big on community policing, caps24.org. If you are watching this on the web before it airs, you still have time to participate in Jewish Chicago. If you're watching this live on the air, we're in print and we're hitting the streets. So, I always have people complain to me afterwards. I wanted to be involved, but you know what? The early bird gets the worm, or hopefully something a little more delicious than a worm. It is a pleasure to introduce you to a successful winner in the primary, somebody who is running in one of the 4 races in the 12th Subcircuit of Cook County, and that's Janet Mahoney. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great, thank you. Why don't you first tell us, where is the 12th Subcircuit?
The 12th Subcircuit is on the northwest side of Cook County, and we are in the areas of Kenilworth, Winnetka, Glencoe, Northbrook, Northfield, Glenview, Arlington Heights, Mount Prospect, Prospect Heights, Wheeling, Des Plaines, part of Elk Grove Village, and Main Township. So it's an enormous area. I think it might be the biggest subcircuit.
In physical area, I believe it is. And by the way, I want to congratulate you on getting all the towns in.
I did.
I've never heard anybody do that in the 12th before. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So yeah, it's an enormous area. And by the way, it's an area of, well, first of all, this is a regular secular show, but for you Jewish Chicago readers, there are increasing numbers of Jewish people living there in Jewish establishments. And I always try to put out as many papers as I can over there. And it's like every time around, even if it's not a kosher restaurant, there's a new restaurant, there's a new synagogue. So, it's a pretty, it's one of the, in my opinion, it's one of the nicest areas in the entire county.
It's very nice.
Definitely. So why don't you tell us about your background?
Well, I have been an assistant state's attorney in Cook County for 29 years. I've had a unique experience there because I've spent the bulk of my time, over 26 years, in their appellate division, which is a little bit different. And what an appellate attorney does is that after there has been a conviction, we take over the case from there. And many things can happen during that time frame. And we analyze hundreds of trial records, thousands upon thousands of trial issues, and we argue them in the Illinois Appellate Court and the Illinois Supreme Court. And I've also had the good fortune of doing work in the Federal District Court and in the 7th Circuit. In addition to that work, sometimes we're called upon to also handle the cases when they're before the Prisoner Review Board or when there are clemency petitions. So we pretty much take over the case following the conviction. And it really is a unique experience that really gives me the skills that are needed to be a judge, because I know the law. I'm a student of the law. I understand where the law came from, why it exists, how it's to be applied, and the importance of applying the law as it's given to you, not as how you feel it should be, but why it should be applied as it's given to you.
That's very important. And having been a court reporter, and I don't mean the guy who's sitting there and, like keeping a transcript, but I mean, I've been a reporter for newspapers covering court cases. That's important. I've seen so much free form, some of the free form stuff some of these judges do these days. You would think they were in creative writing, or they, they thought they were in the ice capades, or rather the Olympics, in the freestyle skating format. Right. The law definitely, but it doesn't mean you can't have compassion within the law too.
Absolutely. You can have compassion within the law, and you can state what the law is and explain on the record that, well, maybe you would have done something differently, so that you could start, laying things out and maybe for change in the future, but you have to follow it as it's given to you that day. And that's what your job is as a judge, and that's a really important thing to do.
No question about it. And once again, people do create along those lines. With the appellate court, so an appeal would have to be filed by the defense in order for you to be involved in that in the first place.
Correct. And just about a lot of your cases that have gone to trial, they file an appeal. They have the right to file a direct appeal. And in addition to your direct appeal following conviction, we also have the Post-Conviction Hearing Act in Illinois. And that provides an opportunity for someone who's been convicted to pursue other avenues, perhaps if they had a claim of actual innocence or a constitutional claim that wasn't adequately covered or wasn't covered in their direct appeal. So there are also appeals from those proceedings that we also handle.
It makes, yeah, I actually interviewed a few appellate court judges. Now, you're not running for appellate court, you're running for the circuit court.
Correct.
So there is a difference, but knowledge of the law is highly underrated these days.
It very much is. And that is exactly what I bring to the table. And some people misunderstand exactly what I've been doing all of these years. And it's really important. And the other thing that's really important in what I do, sometimes I'll have a case where perhaps maybe I'm not going to win the issue, but what I'm going to do is provide the court with some information so that in their opinion or in their order, there will be a roadmap so that error doesn't happen again for future cases. I also then take my knowledge and help create programs within our office to help train people so that they know what they're doing when they're in front of the jury. I mentor the younger assistants who come to the office, and I'm a constant source of information for them as they might make their way into different courts within our system. So I'm doing more than just sitting at my desk writing appeals. I truly am a student of the law. I truly do understand it.
No, and that's important, definitely important. I know that I've heard from a lot of the lawyers. I mean, I know I looked at your grades for the primary. I can't tell you I remember them offhand, but I know that they were definitely pretty good. And I've heard some very nice things about you from people within the state's attorney's office. So, you know, that's all sitting very good. So as a judge, you're really not allowed to, as a person running for judge, I mean, you can't get on a soapbox and promise people 40 acres and a mule.
No, you can't. And the other thing is that as a judge, you aren't supposed to have political views. If you're given a law that you might disagree with politically, you need to follow it. What you think is irrelevant. And so sometimes when you're out there with meeting the public and you're trying to get your name out there and somebody will ask you a question, what is your position on the following? Well, the answer is my position on those, that's irrelevant. What's important is that you know that when you get a law passed that you like, I'm going to follow it. That's the important thing.
It's a good answer. I like that. I like that. And that's one of the reasons I always tell people that, you know, people don't, you know, we're just touching on how important a judge can be in a person's life. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you can affect their livelihood, you can affect their family, you can affect their freedom, you can affect their very life. You know, well, there's no more death penalty, but there's situations too. The fact of the matter is that I always tell people it's, if you're standing in front of a judge and you've got these things at stake, you want the best qualified people possible to represent you. And that's why you look at the bar ratings, you do your homework, and that's why we take such time on the show and in Jewish Chicago to explain these things. So I always urge people to go to the bottom of the ballot first where the important races are. Vote for all the judicial races because well over 20% of the people that take ballots never get to the judicial races. Right. So vote in the races first that will affect your life the most, and then you can vote for unimportant offices like president.
I'm going to agree with you. The races at the bottom of the ballot are the ones that are going to impact your everyday life. And you're right, those are the important races. So I do encourage people, get to the bottom of the ballot. The drop-off is amazing when you see the statistics. It's actually kind of frightening. So again, get to the bottom of the ballot.
No, definitely. Definitely. Now, you have a website?
I do. It is janetmahoney.com, and you can also reach me at janetmahoney4 with the number 4, judge@gmail.com.
And I would assume that besides for the fact that you still have to work every day, you're campaigning like crazy at every possible opportunity.
Absolutely.
So I want to wish you a lot of luck on the campaign trail that's already in progress. Early voting, if you're watching this on air, is ready to start, period. So get out there and make sure you vote on Election Day. Janet Mahoney, thank you so much, and good luck in the election.